So one of the most common reasons that golfers come to me for private instruction is they will tell me, well, Steve, my irons are fine. I hit them pretty good. Everything's going pretty good. But my driver absolutely stinks. It's so bad that I usually just leave it in the bag the whole round and hardly ever pull it out. Now, does this sound familiar to you? Then if so, I want you to keep watching this all the way to the end, because the truth about why you stink so bad with your driver is really gonna shock you. So stay tuned. Hey, this is Steve with HitItLonger.com. If you get enough value out of this video, I hope you'll support the channel by hitting like, hitting the subscribe button, sharing this with other golfers who might use the help, and leave a comment down below. All right, so the major truth on why you might be hitting your other clubs okay, but you can't hit your driver at all, is because you're not using a swing system that scales to that distance. An 8 or a 9 iron is shorter and has so much more loft, and you're not swinging it as hard. And so you're getting away with a lot of stuff that's in your swing that just simply doesn't start manifesting itself till you get to the longer clubs, especially the driver. So because the driver is the longest club and it's got the flattest face, or you'd say the least amount of spin loft, the misses that you're going to get are going to be disproportionate compared to your shorter club. So if you have a little bit of a fade with your irons and you're slicing the dickens out of your driver because you're using a method of swinging that simply won't scale out. Now, here's the really shocking truth is, a driver, it's the most obvious because it manifests itself in front of your eyes. You're slicing it, duck hooking it, blocking it, healing it, whatever you're doing that's so awful. It manifests the most. This is the truth weapon in your bag. The honest truth is, though, that with an 8 iron, 9 iron, even a sand wedge or a pitching wedge from 100 yards, you're fooling yourself, because you might knock that pitching wedge just onto the green 35 feet away and you think, well, I'm on the green, that's a pretty good shot. But it's hurting your score. It's hurting your strokes gained or strokes lost. It's just less obvious because you're hitting shots that are not that bad. They're not that wild. They're not getting you in big trouble. But throughout your whole round, you start adding up shots here and there, and it ends up costing you as much or more as your driver, but it's just so much more subtle. So for you to become a really good driver, you've got to address the main issues that exist in your swing. It's like having your swing has cancer, but it just happens to manifest the most in the driver. But it doesn't mean that the rest of your swing is sound. So let's look at the two most common ways in this video that people get way off track with their driver. It's happening with every club, but just happens to be the most obvious with the driver. All right, the first most common swing flaw that somebody might have, or the error that they might be making, is swinging the driver way too much down and across. And usually this is coming from a very vertical position, you might call over the top, but much too vertical, and the club swings like this coming down. Instead, we would like the club to approach from under and swing up and out like this. So if you're coming from this angle, you would bottom out behind the ball, and when you bottom out, that club is still on the inside of the arc like this. But now in the last few inches, it's going to keep coming around the curve and upwards. So when you strike the ball, the path and the face are pointing right down the middle of the fairway, but you see it's coming from an arc into the ball and upwards. So let's hit one drive of each, and what I'm going to shoot for is about 90 miles per hour, which is about a typical speed for somebody who might be watching this video. And we're going to take a look at what happens on each of them. So I'm going to compare apples to apples. I'm going to hit and I'm not going to count a crappy shot just to make it look better. Let's compare apples to apples. So here is the down and across method. Okay, so hit pretty close to the center. All right, we're at just under 90 miles per hour, so we're pretty close. Ball is sliced like crazy into the right trees. I'm at, let's see, 219 yards only out of 90 miles an hour, way into the trees, with a spin rate of 3,700 RPM. So very, very poor drive. That might look very much like some of you watching. That might be your typical drive. Very poor distance, big slice. Very normal result by hitting. It looks like I've got 9 degrees outside to in, and I'm hitting 4 degrees down. So again, we're describing this as down and across. Downwards angle of attack, outside in or leftwards club path. Now we're going to do one about the same speed that approaches more from this angle here, just like that. So inside, under, up and out into the ball, and we'll compare the two. Okay, again, about 90 miles an hour or so, just a tick over. But now I've got that one going about 5 degrees upwards at impact and about 2 degrees inside to out. So very close to what I wanted to do. And on that 91 mile an hour shot, I'm at 257 yards. So the difference between, let's see, 217 and 257, 40 yards using the same speed. Now, the last one had 3,700 spin. This one has 2,000 spin. So you can see almost halved the amount of spin, higher launch angle, much more efficient use of energy to make the ball go through the air for the most distance. The difference is in the system. Now, if you were using down and across with a pitching wedge, 9-iron, 8-iron, 7-iron, if you're swinging pretty hard, you'll get a little bit of fade out of it. And if you're not swinging that hard, you might not even curve those clubs at all. And this is what might make you think, well, there's nothing wrong with my irons really. It's really in the driver. But see, it's systematic. You can't get as much curve out of a 9-iron or an 8-iron, especially if you're not hitting that far. Let's say you only hit your 9-iron 120 yards. 125 yards is a max 9-iron for you. It's not being hit hard enough to make it curve significantly. Even if you are cutting across and down fairly severely, you are losing distance and you are losing parts of strokes every time you swing the club because you're just not putting it as close to the cup as often as you could be. So it's not as obvious of a miss with the driver, but it's insidious, it's subtle, it adds up over time, over 18 holes. Your whole swing system is costing you. Now let's take a look at the second most common reason why people stink with their driver. This is for some of the better golfers. This is somebody who might be typically a 5 to 12 or 14 handicap. A lot of you watching are in this range or close. You're probably coming in beautifully into the ball this way. Probably hitting that under spot, that shallow inside spot in the slot. The problem is, as it is with the first example, it's kind of the same, that this end of the stick is simply not curving enough. So in the first example, the way we went down and across, you're probably coming from here, and watch the travel of the handle. It travels with very little curve. It goes kind of straight this way. The same thing, only in reverse for this second issue, is that the club is good here, but it doesn't curve enough. Handle does not curve enough. And so you end up coming into it this way. So it's great. Your path is inside out and everything, but this type of pattern, and you're going to nod your head, oh yeah, that's me. High pushes, high blocks, a general draw pattern when you time it, and then you have the quick. So it's this hard left and hard right miss that really aggravates you over time. You just can't have fun playing. You have a huge two-way miss with a driver. You just can't plan your strategy around when you're missing both ways. So it's just going to get you in trouble. You've got to put the driver away. It will not scale out to 250 or 300 yards because there's just too much inconsistency in the club face. So when the handle is coming in and it's too straight in a line this way, the face is going to end up coming in too open like this. And in response, you're going to have to do an emergency flip of the toe. And therein lies the issue with why you stink with your driver, is because in this case, the club face becomes too difficult to time on a day-to-day basis, hole-to-hole basis, and the misses are just too large, both rightwards and leftwards. Unfortunately, where this will manifest itself at its worst is going to be in the biggest and most important tournament of the year, the club championship. Nod your head and raise your hand if you're like a 6 handicap who went out and shot like 89, 84 in the club championship and finished like dead last in the A flight. This is the typical performance of a swing system that looks like this. Go out by yourself, shoot par for 9 holes, go out the very next day and absolutely crap the bed in a tournament or in a match with your buddies. It's very inconsistent. So in both cases, we've got to add more curve to this end of the stick. Even if you're in perfect position here, if you're heading out in a straight line or not curving enough, you're simply not going to get a response out of the head to get whipped around the grip to square up. You're going to lead with an open club face and a very tall shaft. You're going to present the heel to the club a lot. The sweet spot will be smaller. The heel will seem to be bigger. You'll hit a lot of heel shots that block into the right rough or just push into the right rough, and then once in a while, here comes that hook. So instead of that linear handle path from the inside, we're going to be coming around the body this way. And when we can do that, we're going to get this beautiful response to the head getting whipped around and squaring up. The person who can hit the ball the straightest and the most consistent is the one who's going to bring that club from the inside, square to the arc, because this end of the stick is behaving itself on a curve, on a sharper curve. Club will bottom out behind impact a few inches, still on the inside. Now attacking upwards into the ball as the club path and the face both square up with the center of the fairway. And then afterwards, it curves back around to the left, equally as sharp as it came in. So you're following the arc, you're getting the club face square to the arc. This will make golf really fun again when you can do this. So identify which of these two most common swing systems you closely belong in, and let's see if you can go about fixing them with the suggestions that I've given you in this video. Everyone deserves to go out and smash their driver long and straight. It is one of the most satisfying moments in all of golf. I wish that for you. Hey, I'm Steve. Check out my website, hititlonger.com, and I think there's some information there and videos there that are going to help you improve your golf game even more. And if I don't see you in the next video, I hope I see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.